Hi, I'm Jill Maremont. I'm the director of the River North Design District, and I have the privilege of curating Design Day for Intersect Chicago. And today I'm at the studio of Linc Thelen, and it's a beautiful space in Westtown in the Fulton Market area of Chicago. For those of you tuning in that are not from Chicago, it's a very vibrant neighborhood with lots of cool lofts and so on. So thanks so much for being here. And showing us your studio.
Yeah, and thank you for watching, everyone.
So first, I would love if you could tell us about the inspiration behind your work.
That's a good question because many people, patrons, ask, what inspires you? And I think most people believe that you're creative because of something that inspires you, and it's really the secondaries. Being inspired is kind of secondary to being creative. Creative is an internal instinct to want to make things, and I think that the idea of inspiration is somewhat giving hope, and so being creative for me is about creating work that is the idea of hope and dreaming of something better. I work on multiple pieces at one time, and I try to keep the process very open so that there isn't a fixed idea of how this painting is supposed to work out. And that helps without being worried or how to get started. You just have to do it. You just have to start. I typically try to work on at least, maybe it could be anywhere from 10 to 15 pieces at a time. And I set up the whole studio. And the process would be, I'm going around to each one of them, and maybe I'm spending 10 minutes on it. And I try to experiment in each piece something different in terms of maybe the technique's all somewhat the same, but the color palette changes from one to the other. It's just so I don't get stuck on an idea like that one painting. I have to let the paintings take its own course. And in order to do that, you can't be forcing it to be something it's not. And so that's why working on multiple, I can say, well, that piece is going to the direction, it's like lots of color and that's fun, and this one is soft and subtle. I don't have to make that one painting be both. I can continue with each one of them, experimenting something, or I'm creating a new palette within that series that I didn't know. I want to keep on working that palette and try to find the nuances in that palette. But each one of them being completely, connected, but different. With having that process of keeping things spontaneous, those color palettes can keep changing, and experimenting. I use the exact same series of colors. There's about 8 or 9 that I work with, and mixing those those colors together and blending them, creating new palettes within those 8 colors constantly. So the palette's never decided in the beginning of the painting. It's just decided during the path. And recently, in the last couple of years, I started working with children and having them work in my studio. In that respect, is they work completely different than I would. And so I'll have them work on a large painting, and they use red and colors I would never use. And then I go ahead and paint on top of those. And that helps bring in some spontaneity and color palettes that I would never use. And that has also triggered, some new and creative fun work. 8-10 years ago, I was classically trained myself, learning classical techniques and the dark tones and that color palette. I always wanted to try to break into something new and more contemporary. I didn't really know how to get there, but then I'm like, well, why don't I just take a bowl and trace a bowl? And I did that, making some circles. And the idea of okay, that thing can be anything it wants to be. It doesn't have to be green like a tree or like a sky. And that allowed me to progressively keep on experimenting with that type of subject. It could be anything. And so I started then experimenting with new colors, and it's taken quite some time to be good at it. I think, it's tough working with color and to do it right. So that's kind of where it started. I knew that I wanted to do something contemporary. And I knew when it came to designing and architecture, I could look at a space and it would be contemporary. It would be a new idea. I have a vision, I could see it, and I could create something new. And so I was like, why can't I do that in art? Why can't I do something new in art and painting? Why do I have to paint like the old masters? And so that kind of triggered the idea of like, okay, let's start working with compositions and get rid of that type of subject and really refine the techniques of painting. So it's really just about paint, and the process. It's not about a subject. It's about the use of paint, the pastels, the charcoals, the composition. It's like the core ingredients of art is the materials. And it wasn't about the subject or it has to be something. Well, as soon as the pandemic hit in March, I personally got struck with COVID in March. Thankfully, I'm okay and my family's okay. But it took a toll because I experienced the 2008-9, drop in the economy, and I remember, losing just about everything in my business, and that's all I could think about was like, okay, am I going to be able to survive again? I chose this path to be an artist, and the first time we had that recession, I told myself, this is what I chose. This is the life that I chose for myself, and I have to live with it. And I wanted to see if I could endure this pain of being impoverished and not knowing where my next paycheck was going to be, to see if art was really going to stick with me. And I stuck it out. So this time around, that same feelings came about, like, am I going to survive? And the first 2 months, it was dead. All the shows are canceled for the year. And I didn't really feel like to paint, because my paintings are supposed to be happy. It's about hope. And I didn't really feel the hope or happiness. And it's not just painting to be happy for myself, but I make the paintings so they're happy for others. And I just didn't know if it felt right to want to be happy during this time. And obviously, thankfully, things have progressed and people are starting to cope with the situation and move forward, that I'm able to now be creative back again. And I think what I'm experiencing this new round of work is that I want the work to be more spontaneous. I want to have more brushwork. I want to have more fun, exuberance. I want people to feel that, there's some grit to that. Yeah, so I actually partner with quite a few people. I think it's important, is what I've learned during the last recession was I was pretty independent, and this second time around, I wanted to make sure I had enough branches out that I wasn't alone. So if something was to happen, hopefully it might be good in this one area, or this one will pick up. And so one of the things is design with River North Design District. We've partnered up for about 4 years now, and for the gallery walk. And I've always taken part in it. It's been very successful for me. And a few years ago, Michelle Marie Gallery came by. Unbeknown to me, she's a New York gallery that was coming out to source new painters and artists, and she stumbled upon the show and saw my work, gave me a call, and years later now, we're selling a good 40, 50 paintings out of that gallery of mine, and it's been wonderful. She's a go-getter. She really knows what she's doing. She supports her artists, and she's a dear friend of mine and a great partner. So that's one big. Yeah, this is quite a space. We have architectural design portion of it, this art kind of gallery studio space, and then in the back we have the workshop, which totals about 4,000 square feet with 15-foot ceilings, loft style. It's awesome. I look forward to showing you some pieces and giving you a good explanation of some of them here are completed, and I'll give you examples of ones that are in the beginning process and showing those are, and then showing some of the